Hi, friends, and welcome back to Charm and Circumstance. I'm Ashley Morgan from Ashley Morgan Interiors, and today I want to talk about a question that I get often, and that is, what is the ROI on renovations? Or basically, is it really worth it? How much should you care about the return on the investment when you're updating your home? What projects actually give you a return and which ones don't? And then there's the big timing question. Should you renovate now and enjoy it, or wait and do it right before you sell? We're getting into all of it today. Practical, honest, and maybe a little different than what you'd expect. Let's get into it. From floor plans to finishing touches, function to the feeling you get walking into a room, I'm Ashley Morgan, an interior designer with a love for beautiful living and a belief that great design should tell your story. I've spent over 20 years in the industry, and now I'm pulling back the curtain on interiors, sharing insight, inspiration, and the strategy behind well-designed spaces. Expect smart design talk, refined tips, and just the right mix of polish and personality. So pour something sweet and join me for a thoughtful conversation with a generous helping of charm and circumstance. First things first, ROI, return on investment. It's important, but it's not everything. And I think this is where people get a little stuck. Because if you think about your home as only an investment, then you make decisions that don't actually serve your life. But if you ignore ROI completely, then you can end up overspending in ways that don't make sense long term. So the sweet spot is design for your life, but stay aware of resale reality. Your home is both a financial asset and your everyday environment. And these two things need to work together. So let's talk numbers because there are some really consistent trends when it comes to renovation ROI. Now, these numbers can vary by market, of course, but generally speaking, kitchens with a minor remodel will return 70 to 80% return on investment. Major upscale remodels of a kitchen are often closer to 50 to 60%. The translation, you don't always get your money back on a full luxury overhaul. Bathrooms, of course, one of the obvious high contenders when it comes to getting an ROI on renovations. And the stats show that mid-range bathroom remodels have a 60 to 70% ROI, while high-end, quote, spa bathrooms typically return lower. And again, beautiful, yes. Financial return, a little more limited. Then we've got exterior improvements, and this is where it gets really interesting. Garage door replacement, often 90% ROI. Entry door upgrades, a very high return. Siding and curb appeal, strong ROI. These are not the sexy renovations, but they matter a lot when it comes to resale. Fresh paint, it's one of the highest ROI updates you can do. An updated flooring has a really strong impact, and it has a relatively good return. These are your quiet overachievers. Now, looking at major additions or renovations, usually have a lower ROI. They have a high cost, and you rarely recoup 100%, but they can dramatically improve the life that you get to live in your home. So let's talk about the biggest ROI mistakes that people can make. Here's the mistake that I see all the time is over improving for the neighborhood. So if your home comes back the most expensive, most upgraded house on the block, you may not be getting that investment back. Buyers compare within the area, not just the house itself. So it's important to understand your neighborhood ceiling, what's standard versus elevated, and where it makes sense to invest. Okay, so that hot topic. Do you renovate now or wait until you want to move? This is the question. And honestly, most of the time, I would never recommend waiting, not because I want to do the design for you in your house. I do, but you want to live in your house and enjoy it. If you renovate right before selling, you don't get to enjoy it. You're making decisions for a hypothetical buyer. I think that is the most gigantic mistake of all of it. You're often rushing. Instead, if you renovate now, you get years of use and enjoyment. You can design for your lifestyle and your home stays updated over time. Renovating just before selling is really almost like a builder building a spec home for an unknown buyer at the time. Cost efficiency is going to drive their decisions, just like it would drive your decisions making renovations right before you sell. Whereas if you are making renovation changes or updates earlier, so that you get to live in the house and enjoy those, you're making them with yourself in mind. And that is likely going to result in a better decision than just a vague, most cost effective way of doing something with no actual person in mind. There is one exception to all of this, I think. If your house is very, very outdated and you need to sell soon, then yes, strategic updates matter. So I would think in terms of paint, light fixtures, small cosmetic improvements, not a full gut renovation. So here's another question that I have received, and I think it's probably a pretty common one in people's minds, whether they ask it out loud or not. It's how long does a renovation last? And this is something that not everybody thinks about when they're in the process. They just think, I need this to last forever. I need this to outlast me. Every renovation has a lifespan, not because it's going to fall apart, but because styles and expectations change. So I would say there are general guidelines on this based on the standard materials that are going into different spaces and their life expectancy. So kitchens are around 15 to 20 years. Now they can definitely last much longer. Cabinetry could last much, much longer if it's good quality cabinetry. So this is more in terms of feeling outdated or needing that refresh. Bathrooms, again, same thing because you're dealing with fixtures and hard surfaces and cabinetry. So 10 to 15 years. Paint and finishes, 5 to 10 years. And those are fairly easy fixes as well. And flooring, that's going to vary widely because there are so many different types of flooring. So I'm going to say between 10 and 25 years, depending on the material. So, of course, here's the key: timeless design lasts longer. If you lean heavy into design trends, your space is going to be outdated much sooner. So that's why we want to focus on classic materials, neutral foundations, thoughtful details. You will extend the life of your renovation tremendously. So if you are in the middle of this and really trying to make the decision on what to renovate, do you sell? Do you stay? Do you make cosmetic changes? Do you gut the house? And I would say, first off, and start thinking about ROI, I would invest in the function of the house and the layout first. So keep the major elements timeless. And, a lot of this you see how, when we were in mid-century homes and older, all of the rooms were very clearly defined. There were 4 walls and doors in and out of every single room and into the next. And then we took this leap into this open concept house. And higher ceiling heights and different ways of functioning. And I think now we've come back to wanting some walls and some privacy again, instead of having just these big open spaces. And so these are the things to keep in mind. And you don't want to take a house that was originally built to be a bunch of like very clearly thought out rooms with four walls and try to make that into something that it's not, because that screams very, very loud in a renovation, and is very obvious and it's very out of place. So these things need to be carefully thought through. And that's why it's very important to work with a professional designer, an architect in creating that new layout. You also want to make sure that it is going to function very well, because why would somebody buy a home if they can see clear headaches ahead of them in terms of how it would function? And this is just things like door swings all coming in on one another, or really tight space or claustrophobic hallways, things like this. You can add personality in elements that can evolve. And so that refers really to things that can be easily switched out, like paint or artwork and furniture, all the things that you get to take with you. Window treatments, those could stay, those could go, whichever you want to do, and even light fixtures. So these are all ways to, of course, incorporate your own personality and style, but things that don't necessarily have to affect how a future buyer would see your home, because they may not even see all those things, right? So most importantly, though, do not design your house for resale. And I cannot scream this loud enough. I recently saw someone on Instagram giving an interview and talking about the beige epidemic that we are in. And I couldn't agree more. And I will tell you, I am guilty of this. I once, I painted my house many years ago a really dark taupey color. And I actually kind of liked it for a while, but then I got very, very sick of it. And now I'm in this place where I cannot get enough color. And I think that it is the go-to. If you walk into most furniture showrooms, you will often see nothing but grayish and um, beige and grays, or maybe white, maybe navy furniture, because people are so afraid to commit to one thing or another. And so the mindset becomes, oh, I'm just going to get this. It's more neutral. It'll go with everything. And I see this even in like Facebook groups that I'm in, where design groups where just regular people comment, this is their dilemma and what they're struggling with. And so they go and buy a gray couch thinking, oh, it'll go with everything. And now they're just stuck with this gray rug and gray couch and beige walls. And what do they do with all of this? There's no color. Well, of course there's not color. And so it's this fear of, again, committing. Well, what if I paint my walls, this magenta color? Won't I get sick of that? Yeah, eventually, probably. But I think that you'll also be madly in love with it for quite some time. And because you get to just keep adding more color, and it's so bold and it looks so personal and unique to you, that you'll enjoy the space so much more than if you just painted the walls beige. The return that you get from living in your house the way you want to every day, that's real too. So the moral of the story is ROI matters, but it's not the only metric. A successful renovation is one where the numbers make sense and your life feels better in this space. That's the balance you're looking for. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If this episode helped you think through your renovation plans, share it with someone who is in that decision phase as well. And I'll see you on the next episode of Charm and Circumstance. Thanks for joining me on Charm and Circumstance. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow along on Instagram because charm is personal and circumstance is what you make of it.